gosh, we're live. Welcome to the Beast Overburden live stream. First time ever. Oh my gosh, it's so fun to sit in the same room with you and do this.
Yes. Much better than staring at a Zoom screen.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for being here. This is feels different. If we go off on one of our weird and appropriate tangents, I don't know if we're ever going to recover from that.
We can't rely on our editor to
on our Stephen
clip all of our inappropriate jokes. It's actually always kind of fun to see what survives the cut.
Yes.
When you're doing it, in the privacy of your home, you get a little bit comfortable.
Go off on some
X-rated jokes start coming out, and then they inevitably never make the cut. So someday maybe we'll release the unedited version.
The NC-17 Beast Overburden. NSFW. Well, we're going to kick off today with a conversation about one of the most frequent goals we hear about from our clients and potential clients. And then we're going to move into some Q&A. We have a lot of questions here. I don't know how many we're going to get through, but there are some good ones. I hope we can get through a bunch of them. So, ready to kick things live?
Yeah. So how many times do you think you've been asked, Nikki, as a coach, how do I lose weight and get stronger at the same time? That's what I want.
Well, if I include how many times I ask that myself, then it's 1 million times.
I have to say, though, I have actually done that.
Gotten stronger and lost weight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was, and this is probably the scenario when you can actually do it. I was technically morbidly obese. I mean, I can say that because I was, and my annual physical would tell me that every single time.
And someone asked you during this phase, why is your face so small?
No, why is my head so small?
Oh, I thought it was why is your face so small because even your head was big.
Might have been. Shout out to Dan Kavanaugh or Don Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun San Diego seminar question. So yeah, actually, funny story. I can remember the company had this like service they would offer where you could talk to a nutritionist. And I can remember at the time I was probably 275 or 280 pounds. And she's like, so yeah, nice. Well, let's talk about some options. Do you tell me a little bit about your diet? And I think I was drinking at that point. I don't think I was full whole milk GoMad, but it was pretty dang close.
Oh,
and she's like, well, have you ever considered just switching to maybe 2% milk or 1%? I was like, no, absolutely not. I was just fully committed to the Milky Boy phase.
Yeah.
But anyways, post Milky Boy, I was sitting around 270 most of the time, and decided, I think we've talked about this in a previous podcast. Actually, we had a conversation where I was like, I'm either going to go 300 plus pounds, because I hadn't hit a bunch of my lifetime kind of PRs that I was envisioning that I should hit, which at the time was like a 500-pound squat, a 600-pound deadlift, a 405 bench. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to get these numbers come hell or high water. Mm-hmm. And if that means I need to be 315 pounds, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to lean out and, just
stop sweating so much.
see what happens. And decided to go with the lean out because you asked a really good question. Imagine yourself in those two alternate futures. Mm-hmm. Imagine yourself at 315 or 300.
Like walking up the stairs.
Breathing hard.
Yeah.
Or the leaner version, which one sounds better? Mm-hmm. So I sat in those visions and those future states, decided to go with leaning out. And lo and behold, I hit my lifetime press PR on the way down at I was in the low 250s at the time. I pressed to over 270. No, it was about 270, just shy of 275. I deadlift 600 at I think I was 242 or 243.
I was a witness. It was awesome.
I squat 505 or 507 at right around that 245 range, and my bench, my 407 bench was in the low 240s as
so
well.
You hit the milestones that you wanted without needing to have...
Right.
Yeah.
So to answer the question directly, how do I lose weight and get strong? the thank you, Coco, for joining
Yes.
in, keeping us safe. Uh, I would say context. That whole long story short is it depends on your situation and your context. Um, but I really think the question here is usually more importantly or more accurately, how do I lose body fat
Yeah.
and get stronger?
Yeah.
Because by definition of getting stronger, you are going to it requires more muscle mass.
Yeah. You were able to train in a way that you could probably build up a little bit more muscle mass than you had. And I say a little bit more because Andrew was very trained at this point. He
Yeah,
wasn't
I was
fresh
10 years in.
to lifting. So he might have built a little bit more. And he was also able to display his strength at that point without needing those excess calories because you kind of came into it with what you needed.
Yeah, I mean, I was losing weight because my body was consuming body fat,
Yeah.
so I was able to continue training. But to answer this question, I would say I don't know if you're going to lose weight and get strong. I mean, like that's another very conditional thing. Is like, what is strong to you? Are you saying stronger? Um, but generally speaking, I would say you want to make sure you're getting enough protein, roughly a gram per pound of body weight, or at least a gram per pound of lean body mass that you can estimate. And you need to lift heavy frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend doing some conditioning.
Yes. Conditioning at that point is helpful for burning some excess calories and then also getting your body in the level of conditioning to perform or to train frequently and at a high level of output. So, like, you don't want to be huffing and puffing after sets of 5. Like, you need to be in more of a higher level of cardiovascular conditioning, I
Yeah, I
would
mean,
say.
you can see the difference if you're conditioning uh, or if you have conditioning in your program in the rate at which your heart rate comes down between sets.
Yeah.
It's measurably faster. I think you recover better. Oh, sound is so extremely quiet, by the way. Let's try.
Yeah, I'm trying to speak louder for you, Josh.
Going to destroy the volume, or maybe that's going to turn it up. Josh, thank you for
Thanks, Josh.
telling us. Let's see if that. All right.
Andrew, put the mic in your mouth.
Hello, this is.
Okay, thank you.
This is going to be like every burger commercial in the. This is the new double patty burger by Ford truck.
It was super loud because your headphones were on full. Sorry.
We're working out the technical details, and Steven is laughing at me as usual. I've made his life hell on the podcast for
Andrew always
so many
has
years.
a lot of variable sound issues.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
We were talking about
so
conditioning and heart rate coming
it's
down.
one of the things I've changed my mind the most on. I used to, I think we've talked about this before. The traditional advice, or the advice that we would often hear or say 10, 15 years ago, was maximize your gains by not conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm pretty much 180 degrees. I would recommend some sort of conditioning, some steady state, and some high intensity, even while you're trying to get stronger.
Yeah. Well, to go back to the original question, how do I get stronger and lose weight? I think it's also helpful, again, to imagine what it takes to do both. So there are two things going on in that equation. To lose weight, you have to be in a caloric deficit, which means you have to know how many calories you're eating. And then you have to eat less of what you had been eating. And so you have to commit to the habits and the behaviors that are required to knowingly be eating at a certain amount every day for probably 3 months at a time. 3 months is how long you want to be in a deficit, then you can go on some maintenance. So when you want to lose weight, I think people think that you just have to start conditioning and do hypertrophy work, but you actually have to be really aware of what you're eating. And because you're trying to hold on to muscle mass, it can't be an extreme deficit. Unless you weigh, 130 pounds or something, you're not going to be eating 1,200 calories. You're going to be eating, closer to 2,000 calories. And again, that'll depend on your current caloric intake and your current weight. But you have to be ready to barely eat less
Mm.
because the second part of your goal is to get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into a more intense caloric deficit, you're kind of going to have to sacrifice, or you're going to sacrifice some muscle, especially if you're already pretty lean going into this. So this goal sounds lovely, but it actually requires precision, patience, and a lot of time. Because I say a lot of time because even though 3 months isn't that much time, every day feels like a year sometimes.
Well, going back to my example, I ended up losing about 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
At my lowest, it was 35 pounds. But at that point, I actually stopped getting stronger. There was a tipping point where I kept the deficit going into the 230s, and the numbers went down.
The numbers, like the numbers you were training at?
Um,
How do you mean you stopped getting stronger?
Well, yeah, the performance metric, the top end started going down. I definitely was no longer pressing anywhere near
Yeah.
what I was at 250. My bench wasn't there. I think I was in too much of a deficit. I don't know whether that contributed to eventually tweaking my back, but continued training at a really high volume on a deficit, and it eventually went down. Now, what I say, I don't think I was not strong, but I was not stronger. And also, just for context, the period of time that it took me to do all those things was a 9 month to a year, and the focused deficit was the first half of 2020, where I was stuck in the house most of the time.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was literally eating the same thing every single day. And
So much easier.
that's why it worked.
It's so much easier. Yeah.
I mean, I had same overnight oats every single morning, the same lunch, pretty much the same dinner. And I was working with Jillian at the time. So I wasn't weighing and measuring everything, but it was pretty dang close. So yeah, it took a lot of consistent discipline, and I was training 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Also locked in the house.
Yeah. So the programming has to be there, and it has to be, pretty good programming. It's not the type of programming where it's like any programming is good. Like this programming has to be working for you, which means you probably need to have been working with a coach for a while to know what works for you. So it's an important goal because I think that's what we all want. We want to have the amount of muscle mass that makes us feel really powerful, but we also want to have the amount of body fat that we can feel confident wearing, so to speak. But then the third thing to really take into account is what is the lifestyle that makes you feel the best in both of those realms. And I admit I struggle with that a lot. Like I will have a couple weeks during the month where I'm just like, I'm too fat, I'm embarrassed to leave the house. And like another couple weeks where I'm just like, I look great, let's go to the beach. And I think it's the lifestyle component that challenges it the most because, we have so many opportunities to go have fun. We live life. I love food. And so I think you really just spend the year kind of bouncing between like time to get strong, time to lose weight, time to get strong, time to lose weight. But when you really clearly want to commit to that goal, you have to start tracking your calories. I think that is so important so that you are eating enough, but you also know you are in a deficit.
And I would include in that public service announcement, the way to go, at least avoid putting yourself on hard mode, is to not drink alcohol.
Putting yourself on hard mode?
I think if you drink alcohol, you're putting this process on hard mode.
Yeah, it's that much harder. Yeah.
A little gamer speak there. Like put it on easy mode and just cut it out. And that's just a easy way to eliminate calories that aren't doing anything productive.
No, yeah. It changes how your body burns fat. Your appetite signals change when you're drinking. You start to make different decisions around food. So, as much as we both literally hate that, it's true.
One other aspect that I've been seeing more about lately with excess body fat is that it creates aromatase that converts your testosterone to why am I blanking on this? The female
Estrogen.
estrogen.
Oh
Yes.
no.
So simply by reducing your body fat, you're going to improve the testosterone levels in your body,
Well, that sounds important.
which I think is partly also why I
Equals getting
was
stronger.
able to get stronger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm excited
caloric control and good training.
to move on
And
to
time.
the best part, the interactive part. These are actual Q&A questions submitted from the real world. Do I need to stick it in my mouth? Number one.
Real world questions.
Are you going to read this?
Should we put this on shuffle mode or just go from the top?
No, that's we go top.
Okay. This is from my client.
Am I reading?
Sure. You read the first one.
Okay. This is from Kaylee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm new to training with my partner, and so far it's both fun and sometimes aggravating. Do you ever train together? Why or why not? Who ends up yelling, "Don't cheat" first? Okay, so the first question, do we ever train together?
We train together in the same platform when we're in our California gym once or twice a week.
So I'd say yes, we
Yes,
do.
infrequently. Yeah.
Why or why not?
Why? Because all of the great equipment that we need for that day is there. That's one big reason. It's fun. It's a shared activity.
The only reason we don't is you use different equipment right now.
Yeah.
And I'm doing barbell stuff 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So
equipment variation.
And schedule would be the other one.
And I really cherish that alone time. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I just like to have my headphones in and listen to the same 7 songs I always listen to just over and over and over again. Although you tolerate that really well. Thank you so much.
Even when we do train together, it's pretty rarely that we're like high-fiving and stuff. Like that might be like once a month or twice a month we do the heavy deadlift day or the lower body day.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's fun though. But the tough thing, like you called out here, is the equipment logistics get.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to be ready. He's lifting like twice as much as I am most of the time, and so it's putting weights on, taking them off, putting weights on, taking them off. So like the deadlift jack, we have a little dead wedge, super important.
Mm-hmm.
He's strong enough that doesn't really matter. But I'm just like, man, if
I'm so used to it.
I want to rest during my set. During my rest.
My training at Fulcrum with a team, like just ripping weights on and off all the time, and we sharing squat racks. So to me, that's not a huge thing.
Yeah, like one person works one side of the bar, the other person works the other side of the bar. That's what you do.
What is harder is having enough weight when you're doing belt squats and I'm doing squats, or
it's not possible. Yeah,
so I would say logistics is largely the reason we don't train together, including schedule, because my mindset is like I'll just fit it in wherever I can get it in the schedule, and you have it like it's
what I wake up to do.
Pretty much the most important thing in your day.
Yes.
So we just kind of approach our schedules different.
And then another logistics thing that we don't even have to deal with is like bar height. So if like
same height,
if you're like if it's a bench day for you, arm lengths are different. Press day, squat day, someone's pressing, someone's benching. Like having a wide enough rack and 2 bars is essential. I coach a couple who that's what they do. Like I just program it so one of them is benching and they get the inside rack. One of them is pressing, they get outside. The bench moves between each set, and that's what works for them.
Who ends up yelling, "Don't cheat"?
Are we at? Is this like a Coldplay concert reference? I don't think I've ever yelled that.
Yeah, I have gotten done with a set though, and you're like, well.
Oh, sometimes your squat's a little high.
Well. So I would say you.
No, that's true. You're always like.
You just give me this look.
You're always like, do you really think you should go up and wait?
I've never seen you. Like your form is always textbook.
Oh, thanks.
That may be the only thing I would give a suggestion about would be I can't even think of anything really.
Well, I did a deadlift. Well,
I
did a deadlift set recently, and I had to do 5x3 at I don't know, it's like 315 or something. And I did the first set, and you were like, how many sets of that do you have to do? And I took that as a challenge. I knocked out the four
Yeah.
remaining sets. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's, I
So
think that's what your guidance is more like. I'll even send you videos and be like, do you think I should go up and wait? And you'll
yeah.
be like,
Yeah.
hell yes, or no. And I really do value that feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, I do not give any feedback unless asked.
We've just like, I know you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
and I just don't know if it helps you when I say something. So
Yeah.
even
I
though
mean,
we're both
unless I'm
coaches and
looking
I
for,
respect your
like,
opinion.
sometimes I ask if if you
Yeah.
thought that was
Yeah.
deep enough, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's more like,
okay.
question,
So
hurry,
next,
hurry.
what what's a habit you see most lifters missing that could unlock more consistent progress?
Nutrition. Like,
Mm.
consistently eating the right amount for them
Mm.
and sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's one of the more challenging parts of programming once you get out of the easy gains is that so many things outside the gym have to line up.
Yep.
Yeah, that in order to get the really consistent progress.
And from you, Kaylee, you are incredibly consistent and your progress has been exceptional. Like, what you have been doing shows up big time in your training. And I don't know, you don't get to compare your training, I think, to other people at all, like I do, but yours is really exceptional because your nutrition is so dialed in. So I just gotta say, she's awesome.
But so it's a habit though. So like that question is specifically on
I
the
would
habit
say bedtime routine.
side.
A good bedtime routine, because that
Okay.
would set you up for better sleep and more sleep. I'll go to that one.
Yeah.
Then, well, habit would be, how about getting enough protein? If I had to assign a nutrition one, it would be
Sure.
getting enough protein. Yeah.
Okay, we got a juicy one here.
I'll read this one.
Uh-oh. Okay.
This one's from Jeffrey. What are your thoughts and experiences with a 4-day novice linear progression? I'm currently executing this myself and seeing expected NLP progress and results without the longer per session training times experienced in a 3-day linear progression. I currently squat and press on A day, bench and deadlift on B day. I add chins to the A day, and he does the rowing machine on B day. My recovery feels much better than on a 3-day linear progression that he's previously run, and it fits well with my training partner who is executing a 4-day intermediate program. Thoughts? He didn't say that. I just added that. Thoughts?
I would say come on the show.
Yeah.
You
Sounds good.
Yeah. Question number one is, does it work?
Mhm.
And clearly it is. And I think this is a great example of how you have to go back to the whole first principles episode that we talked about. When you're talking about programming, people get wrapped around the axle around how many days, how many, exercises per day. And if you think about how most programs were written that we think of as, those that are referenced frequently, like an LP, it's because it had to fit within the context of a public gym and a coach supervising some period of time, usually about an hour, because that's when that's a convenient slot. So when you look at even just like the number of sets and the number of exercises that are assigned in the standard linear progression, it's to fit like what's the most efficient amount of work you can get done in 1 hour 3 days a week.
Yeah, the way this worked in my head was, well, when someone figured out they were doing something that works, and I thought of like a chef. A chef needed to turn a recipe into something that many people could do and put it in a cookbook.
Right.
And so they had to start putting some consistency, or some things that were repeated and something that was really precise. So in programming, that looks like, okay, well, how do I turn what I know works into this hour-long session with this equipment?
And so if you get into a home gym situation, all of a sudden those constraints are relieved, and you can experiment with all kinds of things like this. What I love about this option, which is, roughly speaking, a full body workout
Mm-hmm.
each time, is that each workout can stand alone as a full body workout. So if you need to move one to the left or the right, it still fits. Like you still check all the blocks
Mm-hmm.
essentially of the exercises and the muscle mass that you're trying to train. And each session kind of gives you that feeling of satisfaction. The other way that I've done it is upper lower split, which
Yep.
has some other trade-off advantages, where I think people will often, from a systemic stress, feel like the upper body is less challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So some people prefer that because it feels like a little bit of a lighter day. Back in my day, when I was working in the corporate gym, I could do the upper body day without even putting shorts on.
Mm-hmm.
I could just go out, knock it out in my khakis.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some logistical advantages that you can trade off there. But the answer to your question is,
What are your thoughts and experiences?
my thoughts and experiences is that it works great.
Yep.
And I think that I love the chins on the bench day also, and I love the conditioning on the second day, because then you have a full rest day in the middle and start over. Sounds awesome. And the results, the proof's in the pudding.
And I do like a 4-day versus a 3-day because the upper body gets one more session per week. That seems to go well after a certain point.
Yeah. As a general rule, I move people to a 4-day split, assuming they can fit it in their schedule, pretty much as soon as possible.
Yeah.
There's really no downside.
Really goes
to
that
the
way
4-day
pretty
split.
frequently.
Also, because, like you said, the workouts are shorter. So as long as commuting to the gym isn't a problem, I think most people prefer a 4-day split.
Yeah. Do you want to answer this one?
What was the second one now? Oh, for Michael, for Andrew? Yeah, let's do it.
I'm a client of Adam Skillen, great coach. And next April, I may be visiting my sister in Bellingham, which is where we are right now, everybody. Would you be up for grabbing a beer at your favorite brewery?
Absolutely. Structures.
Let's
go.
That's my favorite. Yeah, they have the best burgers there too. I won't be there because I wasn't invited.
Or they have the best canned sparkling rosé.
They do actually have a great canned rosé. That's my favorite second beer.
So we clearly live on hard mode.
Hard but doable most of the time.
That's right.
Okay. Here we go. Part 2 of the question. For people who hybrid train with barbells and machines, wouldn't they benefit more from doing lower sets and reps on machines while adding about 5 pounds per workout, or at least weekly, to build myofibril muscle tissue and increase strength, rather than focusing on high sets and reps that mainly increase sarcoplasm? I realize machine work will never surpass barbell training for strength gains, but wouldn't this be a more productive use of their time and energy, especially since many don't follow a strict intentional barbell program? So it sounds like someone does sometimes barbell lifts and then sometimes machines, and on the machines they're doing things like 4x10 or something like that.
Rep. Yeah. So I don't want to claim to be a scientific expert on myofibril versus sarcoplasmic production. What I do understand of the research that I've read is that you can get hypertrophy, muscle fiber growth, from a wide range of rep ranges, as long as you're getting relatively close to failure. Which, to answer the question more directly, yes, I do agree that fewer sets that are more intense with fewer reps is probably going to be more productive, but it's not because the higher reps doesn't work for hypertrophy. From what I understand, it's that I think, practically speaking, if you tell somebody to do more than 10 or 12 reps, the reason that they stop is less likely to be from muscle failure. It's going to be because the legs start burning, maybe you run out of breath, you just get bored. Just doing a set of 20 to like legit failure on a machine, depending on the exercise, can just be boring.
Yeah. Hmm.
And, did you really get to close to failure by rep 19 or 20?
And because machines tend to be used for strict isolation, like sometimes you'll get to a point on your set of 20 where you're not actually doing a true isolation anymore and you've incorporated more muscle
There's like
groups
a
into the
little
exercise
momentum
itself.
into it.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, I mean, I would generally say I agree doing lower sets and reps. I like uh, rep ranges in the four to 12 range, ideally 4 to 8, because again, I think the higher you go up in reps, the harder it is to tell whether you've gone to true failure. The one caveat, and we've talked about this before, is the smaller the muscle group, the harder it is to do a good quality range of motion um, at a heavier weight. So if
Hmm.
you're doing, this is one of the reasons delts are so boring to train, is that you tend to have to do a relatively light weight for a relatively high number of reps over and over and over
Hmm.
and over again. And it's just one of those things that you're going to probably be doing some sort of fly exercise with an unimpressive amount of weight. And it's probably not going to go up. I mean, the thing here you're saying is, why don't you just add 5 pounds per workout, or at least weekly? Yes, as long as you can, but a lot of times you can't.
Yeah. And
And
some of those like magnetic micro gains.
yeah,
Something. Hmm.
so that's where I like to do rep cycling.
Hmm.
So I like to go up in reps until I hit that 12 to 10 to 12, maybe 15, depending on the exercise reps. And then I'll add 5-10 pounds, drop back down to 5 to 8, wherever I end up failing. Or what I'll do is my planned set. Another thing I like to do to test whether I'm actually getting close to failure on my work sets is I'll do an AMRAP on the last set.
That's such a good idea.
And if I can get more than 10
Hmm.
reps on my last set, it's the first two weren't heavy
Yeah.
enough.
It's a great way to like call yourself out.
Yeah. And, as an online coach, I do that because a lot of times I'm programming relatively conservatively.
Yep.
And that last set, burnout set, whatever you want to call it, AMRAP, gives me feedback like, okay, they could
They
handle
can
maybe
actually do
even 10,
2 times
maybe
as
even
many.
15
Yeah.
pounds for the next jump.
Yeah. That's cool.
So hopefully that, oh, there was a second part. Oh, especially
Nope,
since
got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nope, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, your turn. Question from Chris. Best way to conquer the fear of heavy lifting after returning from a pec tear 9 months post-op.
Okay.
I just saw Reynolds chimed in there.
Oh.
This would actually be a really good one for him to answer, because I think he's had a couple.
Well, I immediately when I heard that question, I thought of Matt saying like, I just don't go over 315 anymore because I've torn my pec so many times.
Yeah.
So this probably isn't helping with your fear. But I would think that doing reps with a tempo to get used to kind of that feel of difficulty without it coming from the weight is really important, but also because it's really good for connective tissue. Like tempo eccentric has been linked with tendinopathy. And because it's a fear situation, I would have to relate to what I've dealt with my back, where for a long time, I just thought every time I picked up a deadlift, my spine was going to explode. And you spend a lot of time training where you feel comfortable with the work that you're doing. And you might have to get the more challenging work in from something different that doesn't, threaten that area. So you're still training your muscles around it. But I would always leave a rep in the tank and just never go to a zone until you're ready. Like you'll know when you'll know because you don't think about it. You've completely forgotten about your pec injury. But until then, like if it's still in your mind, leave a rep in the tank, leave 10 pounds in the tank, 15, 20 pounds, whatever, until it's not even on your mind anymore. That would be my conservative approach.
Yeah, I similarly have not had any kind of a pec tear, but I've had knee, back, adductor, shoulder. No surgery, but things that completely reset my ability. And to me, the most important psychological shift is to let go of where you were.
Mm-hmm.
Even the definition of what you consider heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I like to think of it, and actually I struggled to make progress after my most recent big back setback until I sort of thought of myself as going back through the LP from the beginning, and just accepted this is where I
Yeah.
am, and if I allow my body to go back through that progression, then heal through that
Mm-hmm.
process and adapt to that process, then all of a sudden progress happened again.
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten back to lifting the heaviest weights, but I've been able to grind on some heavy weights that
True. Mm-hmm. Before, like,
relative.
that wasn't even there. That gear wasn't there for a
No,
while.
I as
Yeah.
soon as I got to that point where I felt like I was grinding on a deadlift,
Yeah.
I would just drop the weight.
Yeah.
Now it's repetition with those positions and with the load over several months and years, really, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on your circumstance and your stage of life, maybe it's not going to be the all-time max anymore.
Yeah.
That said,
You got surgery, so maybe it's a great fix.
it
Maybe
might
it's
even be stronger.
better than it was before.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
go listen to Louis Simmons talk about breaking his
Mm-hmm.
back and coming back. I mean, the body is amazing. Of course, medical disclaimer, have no idea what your circumstances are, but
Yeah.
I think mindset is, resetting expectations and kind of taking it from the beginning
Mm-hmm.
would be where I'd recommend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, my turn.
No, you asked me. Well, but you talked more than I did. So this one's from Jamal, who's one of our coaches. He's asking a programming question that he thinks would be really interesting to a lot of our listeners, which I agree.
Okay.
60-year-old dude who trains at home. He's got a rack, flat bench, and bars only twice per week and loves to grind on the LP. RPE 9 to 10 intensity. Wow.
I have a couple of clients
Living
like
hard.
this.
All
Yeah.
right. How would you structure an intermediate HLM style weekly training? We are limited to 2 times per week and 60 minutes per session. He's an in-person client. Oh, that's helpful. So then you can moderate the intensity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I was asking you.
Well, I talked too much on the last one, so I got to get some minutes back to you.
Well, if it's HLM means you would have 3 days. So this is going to be more of like probably he's training 2 days a week here.
Mm-hmm.
What you could do is put the H, the L, and the M across something like, what would that be? Like 9 days. So if you're training on like Monday and Thursday, you had H day Monday, Thursday would be L, the next Monday, is that what I said, would be medium. So you could spread out the week into 9 days, something like that. But I don't even know if I would do that because it's just twice a week. I would keep deadlift frequency low. Like that would maybe be every 4th or 5th session, because if you can't help yourself but go to an RP 9 or 10 on your deadlift and you're 60, you ain't going to recover very fast. So that needs to be spread out, maybe every 2 to 3 weeks even, now that I'm thinking about it, if you really can't help yourself with that intensity.
Well, can I throw my 2 cents in there?
Yes, I don't really actually want to talk anymore about it.
I would think of it more as heavy, light, medium vertically.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
So you rotate through which exercise one day. One exercise is heavy per day.
Okay.
So you could have a heavy squat, a light pressing movement, and a medium pull.
Okay.
And then the next session is a light squat, a heavy press, and maybe you do another medium.
Gosh, I'm having a flashback of drafting this out on Post-it notes.
We
for
did this.
myself
We've
one
done
time.
this a couple of
my
times,
God.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to juggle it. It might end up looking like one lift is doing heavy, medium, heavy, light.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of play around with it, but I tend to like to think of it as HLM through the day and through the week.
That's cool.
And then also over the month is
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah.
But for 2 days a week, I would want them to be full body workouts. And I would agree with you. The one that I would push the least on the heavy slot would be deadlift.
Mm-hmm.
I would try to get a squat in probably both times, but it doesn't have to be a heavy squat.
Right.
And I don't know, without getting the whiteboard out and doing like the calculus throughout the week and the month, it gets a little bit tricky. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be, I guess the key takeaways there to me would be moderating the pull frequency, and experimenting with different combinations of which exercise gets heavy, light, medium. But I say keep one heavy lift in a day if he likes grinding.
Yeah, maybe make
So
that the bench and the press.
exactly, you just alternate. Like, is it a squat, a bench, a press, a deadlift? So that gives you a 4-day rotation where you're only heavy deadlifting once every 2 weeks. That's probably how I would think about it.
And then you could even go into something like conjugate where, instead of doing just a regular barbell squat, you can make it a heavy pause squat or pin squat or pause bench where you're still getting to that intensity, but the load would be lower.
Yeah, you can use variations to moderate the load.
Yeah. All right.
Where are we at?
This one from Jeffrey.
Okay. When you consider the 4 main lifts, are some lifters just better at some of them than others? For instance, someone might be good at deadlifts, but suck at squats. If this is true, is it related to their general anatomy?
Yes.
We have definitely talked
100%
about this.
Yes.
Yeah. You can go back to our lift series we did earlier this year, and we talked about anthropometry a lot. In fact, we used you and
like
Carl
me versus
Schute.
Carl. Yeah. Carl and I are different looking creatures. So he is really strong squatter, and I would say he's okay with me saying this. He sucks at deadlifts.
Well,
he doesn't. He's actually incredibly strong, but like his squat and deadlift number are
almost
very close. Like
right.
one of them's at 600, one of them's at like 590, something like that. I'm the opposite. I'm good at deadlifts. I'm not very good at squats. Like the difference between the two is pretty significant, and also squats just never feel good. I think there have been like 5 squat reps in my life where I'm like, I get it. I get why people do this. Otherwise, it's just like I feel like a spider crawling out of a hole, or just like, tall people. Anybody who's tall knows this. Like getting out of a low car is just so uncomfortable every time. It's like you're pulling yourself out of a hole.
Now you're just starting to brag.
I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it just never feels good. But I think I hear some people really like squatting, and I think those are the folks who have a little bit longer of a torso and shorter legs, and then those with long arms, long legs, shorter torso, great for deadlifting because your back angle ends up being quite upright. So it has to do with like when your hands are attached to the bar or the bar's on your back and your feet are on the floor, what's your back angle going to be?
Yes, I was just going to say, interestingly, in both cases, it's basically how vertical can your back get for the respective exercise for squat or deadlift. For the pressing movement, a lot of times it's going to be how long or short is your humerus or your.
So like a short humerus, longer lower arm, that is better.
Yeah, it should be better.
Yeah, because this is just moving vertically. Short humerus, yeah, but then when you have long arms, that also makes squatting.
Long arms, yeah. I mean, I was just going to say shorter of both is probably better.
Yeah. Yeah, so the one who's pressing just like, and their lockout is right here.
Yeah. But yeah, the squat and the deadlift are the classic ones to compare. That's really where you usually see where anthropometry makes a big difference. If you've got short femurs and a long torso, your back, you are able to stay almost. I mean, if you look at Carl when he squats from the side, his back angle almost doesn't change.
I have a client like that who's like his hips, where I look at the hip at the fulcrum, and his bar is just like this far apart from each other when he's at the bottom squat. It's amazing.
We talked about it before that I've seen the most painful looking squat I've ever seen was a high level hurdler.
Oh,
this guy had like a 2-inch torso, like a 6-foot long femur. He was literally.
Nobody likes watching that kind of build squat.
He was looking at the floor. At the bottom, he was just literally folded in half. His back was completely parallel to the ground, and but that was the correct.
Yeah, it can tick all the boxes for the squat. Like they can be doing the same thing. Anyway,
I also think there's just some people that are wired psychologically to attack a deadlift
From a dead stop.
Like there's just some people that have that gear, and it's a little bit different. The squat's a little bit
I think
different.
they tend to listen to Tool more often.
The squat's got a little bit more of a technical aspect of it. You've got the controlling the eccentric part.
Yeah.
Some people are better at taking advantage of the bounce.
Yep, that's true.
Um,
I'm thinking of my client and coach here, Chrissy, who's just like baller squatter, baller deadlifter too, but she's just
Yeah.
like loves that squat feeling. Yeah.
and I also think larger, higher body fat folk tend to do better on the squat
Yeah.
than
Like
the
pushing one of
deadlift.
those exercise balls at the
You
gym.
notice as you get into the super heavyweight, the squat and the deadlift kind of start leveling out. Almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just because the biomechanics get really hard to pull off the floor efficiently.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the reasons I think my deadlift went up as I
Yeah.
leaned out, is I think the mechanics got better.
Yeah, you're probably able to get into a better position. Okay, here's one from Dan. This was more of a nutrition one. How do you account for marinades, which you are dumping after marinating and not using as a sauce? Okay, so you do this a lot. You cook with a lot of marinades. If you're weighing and measuring, how do you account for those calories? Obviously, in some cases, you probably can't find the finished item like on your tracking software, but sometimes you can. That's a great question. I usually I'll put in like 1 tablespoon of olive oil.
Wow.
Or something. I don't know, a
Yeah.
teaspoon. I'll just like add some of the ingredients in a small amount.
When I was weighing and measuring, to be completely honest, I'd say I didn't. And I think it's because I probably chalked that up into the same margin of error that exists even in packaged foods.
Yeah.
The label's only plus or minus like 20 something percent
Yeah.
accurate. So it's one of the reasons why if you're coaching somebody that's down to that level of detail, or yourself, you're managing your own nutrition to that level of detail,
You're probably not going to be using marinades.
I
If
don't
you're
know.
getting someone ready for a bodybuilding show where this matters,
Probably
you're not going to be using marinades.
But
yeah,
even if you're not quite at that level, I would say you're going to get more bang for your buck being consistent
yeah,
with what you eat than knowing exactly what it is, because there's so much variation even in the same thing that you're eating. That what's more important is that you're going to want to focus on eating relatively the same things enough that you can adjust the parts of your diet that are more measurable and more consistent. So, I mean, and again, that's such a small amount of calories that you're either having to manage. I mean, depends on the marinade, I suppose, but I think you're going to get more bang for your buck controlling things that have a bigger impact. And I would kind of put that level of detail into kind of the noise bandwidth.
Always a noise.
That is one of the reasons why I think it takes so long, is that you've got to make these incremental changes over several weeks and months and be super consistent in order to drive the change. I don't think that's the reason the marinade, I don't think is the reason that your progress is stalled at that point. That'd be my 2 cents.
I'm really excited about this next question.
Or to your point, conservatively, throw some in.
Yeah, throw in, 30 calories or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. From Steve, what is your mindset going into disruptive life events like travel, busy work periods, illness, etc., where diet and workout consistency can be interrupted for a while, especially if events like that get stacked closely together, so that you can be more accepting of the fact that you'll be losing some progress?
This happens all the time for grown-ups because we have busy lives. And so this is for sure going to happen. Even with me, like you were saying, I live for training. I totally have to plan for stuff like this all the time. We travel pretty frequently. So always think about controlling what you can control. If you know where you're going to be going and you know you're going to have some room in your schedule, even if it's 20 minutes, find the nearest hotel. It might even just be some dinky looking hotel gym. Find that and plan your workouts for that hotel gym. Go online, find a picture of it in the information, And you can build a workout program that uses whatever dumbbells they have. More and more gyms now have heavier dumbbells. They even have cable machines. You can get a great training session in at the hotel gym, or you can go to a gym nearby. You can walk to it, drive to it, whatever. But plan to put that in your schedule and plan the actual workout. I don't think it's enough to say, I'm just going to do a hotel gym workout. Get yourself something to do in there so you're not just dicking around, because when that happens, it's likely that you'd be like, you know what, this isn't going to matter anyway, and not do anything. But there is truth in that something is always better than nothing. So train how you can. Look ahead at where those gyms are located and plan your workouts. Try to get walking steps in as much as you can. So go on walks. In the airport, if you're just killing time, walk around quite a bit. Like that energy is useful, or I should say that exercise is useful. For nutrition, that is a that's it. I think that can be a tougher one because a lot of things might not be in your control. You might be having work dinners or some sort of catered meal. But again, control what you can control. Can you find some protein shakes? Can you, what I would call pre-party, by having a meal that actually feels really good, that's full of vegetables and fruit and, some sort of lean meat, that will make you feel better going into a meal, so you're not starving and just eating whatever stuff is on your plate. Drinking a lot of water is really important for times like these. If you're going to be traveling, if you're really busy working, and especially if you're sick, stay hydrated. That does wonders for bloat and appetite control. And then if you're going to do something fun, I think it's really important to let yourself enjoy that fun, because if you, either way, like you're going to get on the other side of this travel period and you're probably going to have some bloat. Depending on how long it was, you might have a little bit of fluff. You're going to have to take some pounds off the bar, not that much. If you're also beating yourself up about it and regretting your fun, then it wasn't even worth it. So I think the harder part here comes from in that 2-week period where you're fluffy and your training sessions weren't as they were. Just look back and remember, you know what, I got to go on this amazing trip, or this work trip was super important to me and I'm glad I did it. Or I got sick and there's nothing you can do about that. Now it's just about getting yourself to be healthy again. But I think it's that couple weeks after that period where you have to be really kind to yourself and just know that that was your journey for then. And I have to remind myself that, you know what, I have some great souvenir weight, you know, and I wouldn't regret it at all. So make sure you're doing things that you really value, taste your food, enjoy it, and then as much as you can, eat fruits and vegetables, drink water, keep your workouts going, and get lots of steps in.
I would say two things. So the question, if I really just try to focus on what I think there, Steve's asking, what is the mindset going in? I think that was an incredible list of things to do. If I think about my mindset, it's two things. The purpose of the workout is not to make progress in that during that stage.
Oh, like in the hotel workout, or
in events like travel, busy work periods, illness, my training is no longer to be progress. And that's a hard one to do because we've talked about this before. We're conditioned from the beginning to define the success as more weight on the bar. During these periods, that is no longer the case. I don't care what weight is on the bar. It is simply to feel better.
Yeah.
By the end of the workout than I do at the beginning. That is my mindset.
Just gonna hold your hand because he's pounding the table, and I know Steven's not gonna like it.
I'm pounding the table, and I will keep pounding the table. So it is no longer, the progress is no longer defined as weight going up on the bar.
Yeah.
Or even hitting a certain number on the bar. I literally could care less how much weight is on the bar when I'm in these phases. What I'm looking for is that by the end of the session, I feel better. This is most important to me because when I start rewiring my brain, I then look forward to working out. If I rewire the purpose of the training to feel better, then I actually look forward to training. Even if I don't feel good in the moment, I start learning the behavior that, oh, that's right. This is the part of the day that I invest in myself to actually feel physically better, because especially in periods like that, I'm usually not feeling great.
No, you're doing things on other people's schedule, or you have way fewer opportunities to get a good sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
And by shifting that mindset, I'm able to let go of a whole lot of other things that would sometimes be, if I were adhering to a more strict training program, they would be friction to training. So I don't care how long the workout is. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care how many exercises I do. I don't care how heavy it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go in and I'm going to do something that feels
Find
better.
the hard set. Yeah.
Find, maybe it's just get on the bike and go for 15 minutes.
True.
I did something that
Mm-hmm.
made me feel better.
Yeah.
And hopefully you've been training long enough or listening to our podcast long enough that you know how to play with those different variables. But
Mm-hmm.
I just would let go of the idea that you're training at all.
Yeah.
Like maybe this is a period of time where you just need to exercise for a bit.
And you're probably not going to backslide that much. It's going to feel crappy the first couple weeks you came back because you lost some momentum,
Right.
but you did not fall apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell myself in that mindset that I'm doing this because yes, I'm going to feel better today. And when I get back to a point where I can drop into actual training, it'll come back very quickly because I haven't lost that much progress.
Yeah. We just did this recently on our Orlando trip.
Mm-hmm.
I can't reach the computer. Do you want to scroll up and...
Yep.
Okay, we're going to get some questions from people who are turning into our live stream.
There we go. From Josh Taylor. I just wondered how you could approach getting into becoming a barbell coach. I'm currently a personal trainer in the UK. Problem is the gym I work at has a beep ton of machines and the culture is very Planet Fitness-esque. Also, what's the best way to fully learn how to coach the barbell lifts and how to program properly? Man, I'm glad you asked. Time for a shameless plug. I'm going to have to put my high energy advertisement voice.
I have this pain point. What is it?
Just so happens that we at Barbell Logic have been working on an academy for over 6-7 years at this point. I think it started in 2018 and it is now in its 4th iteration. Incredibly high value barbell academy coaching product, and it will walk you through all of the aspects of both barbell training and the principles behind barbell training that you can also then apply to machine training. So one of the things I love about what CJ has done with the Barbell Academy is that, yes, we use the barbell lifts as the primary means of strength training, but we talk about the underlying physiological, biomechanical, physics, anatomical aspects of why barbell training is effective that can then also be applied to any machine if you use the same principles, and as well as how to program. So it's a great way to learn how to also get your feet wet with coaching, because we teach things like the teaching progression. And I believe there's a special going on right now, or maybe it just wrapped up, but there will probably be more in the future, but it is incredibly well priced for the value that you get. We frequently hear from people that have gone through the Barbell Academy that it was better than their 4-year degree.
Yeah.
In terms of being practically
and it's online learning environment, an online learning environment. So it's at
you
your own
get to
pace.
learn at your pace from anywhere in the world. So hate to do a shameless plug, but it does happen to be, I think, the best way to learn how to.
And if you need guinea pigs, recruit friends and family. Best place to start.
You'll also get added to a community within Slack where CJ hosts weekly calls, and there are other coaches learning how to coach, where you can post questions. And there are several people in the UK that are over there that are in the academy. So yeah, shameless plug, but I think that is a wonderful place to start.
Absolutely. Okay, can you scroll up a little more? Other way.
I think that was the only question.
No, there's more. There he is. It's Josh again.
Oh, that's why you wanted to answer this one so much. From Josh Taylor again. How would you lift for a pro BJJ athlete? Been running the LP and I'm feeling absolutely drained. Can't reduce BJJ anymore as I'm an up and coming competitor. Ooh.
Well, your priority is jujitsu, which means progress in your lifting can't be your priority, and that's okay. So, since you've been running your LP and you've made progress on it, I think your lifting needs to drop to once or twice a week. And it's more going to be about how you feel on that day. So, you don't need to chase the numbers and add 5 pounds, but you need to hit, probably less volume, maybe 2 sets instead of 3 sets. And I think, to go with an RPE, something more subjective, like no nines anymore. I think you got to be in eights, RPE eights. You might hit a nine, but I don't think it's worth chasing weights on the bar at this point because lifting is not your priority. Recovering for jujitsu is your priority, and that's a much more unpredictable sport. So I think you need to kind of play it safe in the gym, but still continue to train twice a week.
Yeah, would you say train on other jujitsu training days? That's what I'd heard from
Yeah, so lift
some folks.
if you can get yourself a full off day rather than lifting on your jujitsu resting day would be better. So double up where you would lift and then jujitsu, and then have yourself, if you can, 1 to 2 full rest days. Yeah, but
Awesome.
play it cool.
Dan, any other questions from behind the scenes, as we say?
Nope. I think you guys are good.
Nice.
Yay, we are good.
Perfect timing, right at an hour. I think you should do the CTA
Ooh.
because your voice is. I'll do the burger.
I'm not going to read it.
You're not going to do it?
Well, I can say it. I'm just not going to read it.
Oh, okay.
But if you want to learn, okay. If you want to test out the experience with what it's like to work with a coach, go to barbelllogic.com/experience. We have something called the experience call where we'll invite you to our software turnkey coach. You can upload any lifting videos you have, and then we'll get on a call and walk through your lifts together. Can answer any programming questions, set you up with some lifting cues for next time, and also discover what it would be like to work with a coach, which is really fun to have your questions answered literally every session because you're going to connect with your coach 2 to 4 times a week or however much you're training. So barbelllogic.com/experience. We can even talk about our nutrition coaching program there as well. Yeah, but this was really fun. I enjoyed this.
This was way better.
I hope everybody who joined also had a blasty.
We'll have to record this. Even if we're not doing them live, this is so much better.
Yes.
Well then.
Well, I think that's it, everybody. We will, I don't know when we're doing our next live episode, but we're going to continue with our goal series on this podcast for a bit longer. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.